when you are driving around and without a spare tire, and you don't know to make it to the next rally, how you get there without money. And then the car, we named it a car. If you Google one of these famous movies of the time called The Car, we named it after the car. It's a miracle thing. And we just kept on going because we had a vision, we had a commitment, and the zeal. So challenges are never insurmountable. You can deal with them. What would I do, my friend Garang from South Sudan, even from the point of view of wiper democratic movement? I didn't indicate yesterday we were confronted the Gen Z demands on what they want to do. In fact, one of the things they wanted to do, that's why they are so properly branded, they looked at the party colors used on the headquarters of the party, and they thought it was not the same colors they are wearing. So Gen Z threatened the executive director, we are coming to paint the party offices. Active action. But we must allow them space. Within Wiper Democratic Movement, we have a chapter which is called Young Wiper Democrats. Even the Women League, Wiper Women Democrats. So I think that other political parties may have similar. We give special attention to people with disability. If a young man called Keter, who is a chair of people with disability in the party, he stammers. He stammers, but he is able to communicate. So whatever it is, disability is not inability. He has an excellent mind and is able to contribute. So there's a lot that we can do, and we are determined to mentor the next generation of leaders. What would I advise to our friends in Nigeria? Nigeria, of course, is Africa's largest. Shall I say democracy? It's Africa's largest country. Kenyans have a joke. They have a joke about Nigeria, because Nigerians are very proud of their country. And if you watch CNN, you see Nigerian ladies promoting Glow or something. But there's this belief that out of every four Africans, one is a Nigerian because of their share numbers. And so the rest of the continent is very proud of Nigeria, because they know if you use your numbers to bring change, we know you're dealing with extremism in the north, in that areas of Kano, and the extremism is different, it can be dealt with differently. But this Kenyan mother goes to Nairobi hospital and gave birth to her fourth child. And suddenly she was in a depression. So she has asked, what has happened to you? She said, I gave birth to a Nigerian. Because she believed out of every four children, every four Africans, one is a Nigerian. That, of course, is a joke to tell you that Nigeria is very important. And when things don't go right in Nigeria, the rest of the continent gets affected. But so very little advice to give to Nigeria. But we think that even the Gen Zs in Nigeria, I think, have been coming up in Ghana. Yeah, in Ghana. The thing about Gen Zs is across board, because age limitation is very well defined. And if you enter their space, they can throw you out. So I think this agitation for open governance, so that leaders stop stealing from their people, that message should resonate across Africa. From Nigeria, our largest democracy, to South Africa, to Kenya, to Egypt. By the way, as it occurred to you, what the Gen Zs are doing is pretty equivalent. It's a very easy comparison to the Arab Spring, which swept across Northern Africa. When a young student unemployed in Tunisia burned themselves up, then there was their pricing, which became eventually known as the Arab Spring. Swept across even Libya. We used to have the brother leader there. He was killed badly. And I think Africa at some stage must ask themselves whether what happened in Libya was correct, because that country has remained unstable since the demise of Muammar Gaddafi. But The Arab Spring swept across Egypt and everywhere. So the Gen Z revolution, I see, is going to sweep across Africa. And it is going to be the time that Africa will then come up. Because if we stop stealing from ourselves, stealing and getting dictatorship by the Bretton Woods institutions. In the 70s, I'm sure President Obasanjo may have shared about the debt issue, a debt problem in Africa. Himself is a very good example of how you can move from a military leader, call it dictator even, because military leaders are really not very democratic. He transformed himself, which is a very good example of how African leaders can, first of all, begin to change from within and then change the continent. President Obasanjo is a very good example of how you can create democracies in Africa. So I think that my advice then is nobody should feel scared by the Gen Z revolution because it's for the good of this continent.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your responses. As we see, His Excellency is a strong proponent, you know, for youths, and I thank you so much for the genuine heart that you have, you know, in terms of just empowering us. So we're going to move on to the next round of questions. So I'll take questions from this side, and I'll come back here later. Again, like I said, we want to hear from new people. We want to hear new perspectives because some of us have been here throughout the conference, and I know we have new faces. So I'm just going to go all the way back here. I want to hear from you. Introduce yourself, tell us your name, and go right in.
Okay, thank you so much, Your Excellency. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony. I am a Gen Z here in Kenya, and we are so glad to have you here today. So my question, actually, why? Because from the information that we do have is that Africa, in her bellies, we are endowed with the resources that are able to sustain us, and we can move our development goals. Why are we beholding to the West? The second one and the last one. All right, the last one. Okay, the last one is about Agenda 2063. If you look keenly, the people that come up with the Agenda 2063 will all be dead by 2063. Can we come up with goals that we can achieve when we are alive? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's stick to one question only, okay? I want to hear from the lady here.
Hello, my name is Audrey. I'm a student at Strathmore, and mine is not really a question, it's just a response to the question you asked. You asked when this dialogue will happen. I have a list of 4. When all those arrested and abducted have received legal justice, when all the police officers incriminated in the killings and illegal conduct have been arrested and charged, when the CSs implicated in corruption cases are held accountable and suspended, and there is already precedent for this set by Uhuru Kenyatta in his previous administration when he suspended 6 CSs, so it's possible. When the IEBC is fully reconstituted, signing of the bill is just part of the process. We need to see it through to the end. When the illegal arrest of youth brave enough to let their voices be heard are stopped. Just now, 4 minutes ago, Mushiri Mike was arrested at Kasarani. The charges are not clear, the situation is not clear. He's been very vocal about the movement, and it's still happening. So that is when dialogue will happen. If it takes all night or 100 years.
Thank you. Let's take it from the end over here, this far end. Let's make it quick and concise.
Thank you. My question is, in fact, let me start here. For the past 3 days, we have been talking about different thematic areas. I've been thinking as I'm sitting here, we are talking about culture, we are talking about education, and we are talking about human empowerment. And if we are talking about culture, in my culture, women were not supposed to work. Women were supposed to be married at the age of 15 to 20 so that they could take care of the family and make children. At the other hand, we are talking about women in leadership. We are saying empower women. We are talking about education. We are saying let women be empowered through education. Your Excellency, do you think we should visit the definition of Pan-Africanism? And one last question is, do we think the world, or Africa and the world is ready, the world is ready and Africa is ready for women to lead? I will make an example of Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa. I don't think Cyril Ramaphosa won the election to be ANC president because he had the merit, but he was competing against women. I don't think after the Conservative Party expelled Boris Johnson, I don't think Liz Truss, who took only 45 days, we can say she failed. I don't think Donald Trump won the elections because on merit. I think because he was against Clinton, who is the woman, in fact, is the reason why I think the world is not ready. Do you think the world is ready for women to lead?
I understand we have a lot to say, but please, let's follow the guidelines or rule. Let's take it to only one question, please. I have the gentleman, and I'll take a last bonus question, then we'll, thank you.
Your Excellency, Kalonzo Musyoka, good afternoon, and everyone else. My question is to the African youth. We are always talking about democracy. Okay, my name is Victor Sankara. My question is to the African youth. We are always talking about democracy, but what I find out is that there's no democracy. Because democracy, as we all understand, is a system of governance whereby the people are at the center of everything. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But what we are witnessing across Africa, there are just pseudo elections where people are just imposed on us, and once they are imposed, they don't even work for us, they work for other interests like the West. So what must happen? These elections are just a charade. I think as Africans, we need to wake up and realize that we are not electing our leaders, and that needs to change. Thank you.
I think we're going to shift it to have His Excellency just answer this round of questions. Okay, should take one more.
I can see the moderator want to gag my freedom of expression anyway. Because His Excellency, thank you for your kind permission. My name is Koji Saki, Assistant Commissioner for Social Development, United Nations International Missions, and also African Development Focal Point to the United Nations. I'm so much happy that Executive Chair caught my eye and said that I should ask this question. Unfortunately, governments upon governments assume power, and after they have assumed power, they give opportunities and privileges to their party cronies. And for that matter, when it comes to elections, there are always leaders who are bent to secure power by all means and forms. And as a matter of fact, it has some economic implications on our continent. As a leader of a party, what is the assurance to our youth and other governments that when we assume power, economic privileges and opportunities will be spread across all spectrum of life? Because Leader Kofi Annan, in his speech, said that you should not be only part of the problem, but they should be part of the solution. And in the same vein, United Nations has passed a resolution 2250 encouraging the youth to be part of the decision-making process. So on that call, I want you to make a firm call to our youth in Kenya, Ghana, everywhere, that our countries should be involved, the youth and all other parties in governance structure. Thank you very much for the brief.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other international delegates that would like to ask a question? Yeah, okay, well, pass it on to here. Thank you. After that, we'll take one from a party member, okay?
Thank you. I don't have a question. His Excellency, I am Bright Shagan from Togo. I'm president of International Council for Immigration, Entrepreneurship, and Employment. We are working to discourage irregular and risky immigration. Our problem is not about irregular immigration. Our problem is how our brothers and sisters are dying in desert and in the sea. I just want to reassure you, His Excellency, that we don't have any problem with what is happening in Kenya. When I was coming here, Immigration Service say, Brett, Kenya is hot. I say, I'll go. And when I will go back to my country, in the airport, I'll say, Hakuna Matata. Kenya is safe. Because what is happening here concerns us as Africans. I'm not feeling like a stranger in Kenya. I feel like a home because Kenya is a good country. No matter how is the environment, what is very important for me is the Kenyan. Kenyans are very lovely, they are very intelligent, they are wise, and I love their leadership. Thank you. Asante.
So we have a party member that wants to speak to you.
Okay, thank you very much. You're right, Excellency, my incoming president, Kalonzo Musyoka. So my name is Edwin Musembi. I'm a member of the Wiper Party, and I'm also a student leader at Kenyatta University. I want to make it first clear that Kalonzo Musyoka is a paragon of hope and democracy in Kenya. And I will thank him for, first of all, giving us and the youth space to participate in such a conference. I would love to ask a question, but before I ask a question, I'd love to give examples. I want to, okay, just a minute. The average age of Kenya, I've sampled the populations that are here, is 20 years. The average age in Togo is 20 years, Nigeria 18 years, and Liberia 18 years. The average age of Germany is 45 years. If you look at Germany, Germany is doing well compared to most African nations in Kenya. It's doing, in Africa, is doing a lot of robust industrial changes. You don't see that in many African countries with such a youthful population. We need to have an economic mimicry as Kenya and as Africans. If you look at also Rwanda, the growth rate is at 7% from 2010 to 2019. The growth rate of Kenya was 5% from 2010 to 2019. In 2020, during COVID, just a minute, during COVID, the recovery rate was 10.2% in Rwanda. In Kenya, was at a slow 5.4%. Now, my question to my party leader will be, what Kenya can do to harness the demographic dividend, particularly in manufacturing and technology? How can we emulate countries like Germany? How can we emulate countries like Rwanda as African nations? And I would like to give an opinion.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you. I think I must tell my young party leader that patience pays and always give space to others. So that is a due, I think, from your party leader. You can't if I can now start with some of the comments made. Why are our leaders beholden to the West? That's a very fundamental question, which came from Tony. I don't know whether Tony is still there. I think he asked and left. Ah, you're still there. Tony. Yeah. You know, this is a very important matter. I was once foreign minister for my country. Twice, actually. Before all these other things. Our foreign policy as a country has been that of non-alignment. You know, African countries and some in Europe and others met in a city called Bandung in Indonesia and founded the non-aligned movement because our countries did not want to be seen to be pro-East or pro-West. And in the case of Kenya in 1965, and a very important document which was legislated upon in Parliament, led by then people, you may know people like the late President Kibaki, the late Tom Joseph Mboya, session of paper number 10. I want to refer young Kenyans to that document. Session of paper number 10 of 1965 on African socialism and its application to development. That's when Kenya again chose a position not to be pro-East or pro-West. Therefore, to hear that Kenya now is a non-NATO ally is a deviation. It's a deviation from that very important principle in terms of international diplomatic conduct. And it does place Kenya on a very difficult pathway. If extremist groups, for example, who don't like countries in the West begin to say this is an ally country, a NATO ally, and we are in a very difficult area geographically with the instability in Ethiopia, with what has been happening in Somalia, even Al-Shabaab having hit us here, not once, and us having suffered in 1998 following the bombing of the American embassy in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam. In fact, I hold the view, had the world taken seriously what happened in 1998 here during that bombing, where over 222 Kenyans died, and today a lot of them are still maimed, and we suffered for mistakes which are not ours. We were not even NATO allied. Therefore, this matter of NATO allies or not NATO should be discussed in Parliament and a position taken. And I think a lot of people agree that non-alignment is the best way to go. We don't want to be East or West. East or West, absolutely no. So thank you, Tony, for asking that question. Dar es Salaam did not suffer as much damage, but that again was a problem. Now, these terrorists were targeting American interests. Now they'll be targeting American plus Kenyan interests. Can you imagine? So, on arms, on arm's length, we are in danger. Agenda 63. I don't know which leaders you'll have eliminated by that time. They'll all be dead. Some of them were still young, I think. Those who are on average 40 years will probably be in their hundreds. But I think it is a vision, not so much the players. Not so much the players. So when they're setting Agenda 63, it was for the continent. We set Agenda 2030 here, Vision 2030 under President Kibaki, and we had even flagship projects which are going to make sure that this country is well endowed. I'll give you an example of what we had. And this is why the finance bill, actually these finance bills have been a terrible mistake. Because the effect of it is if you have what is called corporation tax at 40%, what you are telling people who want to invest, and there's such, I'm sure you have heard of FDIs, foreign direct investment. No company will invest in a country where they don't make any profit. They're in business. And so without manufacturing entities and companies being set up in Kenya, in our region, we will continue to have the youth budge. Young Kenyans, highly educated, but jobless. And the reason is, people flee. In fact, I think our friends in Tanzania, President Suluhu was saying, this mistakes Kenya is making is a beautiful thing for Tanzania. Because companies are relocating from Kenya to Tanzania to set up manufacturing in Tanzania, because the tax policies are more friendly to business. This has been our undoing, and the current leadership here, President William Ruto and his team, are listening more to IMF. They are given a prescription which they must follow, or there's no deal. I think Ruto should have reported to all of us that IMF are trying to strangle him. I would have come to rally behind him, because Africa said no to SAPs, as I mentioned earlier on, structural adjustment programs of the IMF. They failed. So we could also say, stop this habit of killing our economies, because at the end of the day, if you look at that way, maybe the problem is not even Ruto. Maybe the problem is those multinationals and the Bretton Woods institutions. And that is a problem across Africa. Now, having said that, I don't want to defend what Ruto has done. I personally continue to object seriously to the housing levy tax. That surely is what will take Ruto home. Yeah, because you cannot do that. Everybody earning an income, you know, how do you even agree on which investor is going to build? And you think all Kenyans were born to be artisans, hewers of stone, and nothing else. Now, some of them are very qualified people. They want to realize their professions. So, Tony, I'm just in agreement. But let me agree even with Audrey. Audrey, I thank you. I agree actually entirely. And as a lawyer, I can tell you I have nothing useful to add to what you said. The preconditions, because those are preconditions to dialogue. You're basically saying nobody is averse to dialogue. You cannot. As I said there, dialogue should be a way of life. And if there's no dialogue in South Sudan, which I was involved in, then nothing can happen. But dialogue in a situation like we find ourselves in our country should surely not be seen the way it is. So those conditions. I attended the funeral of Rex Masai, the first one to fall out of the 41 young Kenyans. And what the mourners at Gen Z were shouting is, justice for Rex. Justice for Rex. So if there's no justice, you cannot even begin to think of dialogue. So Audrey, I don't know whether you are from the law school at Strathmore. If you are, I met your former dean in London a few days ago. And he was asked to serve in the audit committee. I'm quite sure he must have, Professor, very difficult name, he must have declined. So I really agree with you that there must be justice, and there must be, those people, abductions must stop. I met this young man, the president of the Kenya School of Law Students Association, Okuya. He was even injected with some substance, but those people abducted him, left him for the dead somewhere in Murang'a. And you expect that Okuya would want to have dialogue? First of all, he wants justice. He wants justice, and not just him. He represents the young law students and others like him. So I hope that the advocates of yet another level of dialogue will take note that perhaps people are saying they are not opposed to dialogue, but they are preconditions. Get things right. Get the IBC going. So that if the dialogue says, well, as a result, let's go for snap elections. Some of us have been saying this openly in order to allow the Gen Zs now to take space. I hope they're also registering as voters. And I can tell you, having run once for president, the most expensive item is providing 3,000 shillings per agent in the 15,000 plus polling stations, which are primary schools. If you calculate that, if you don't have billions, you can't even begin to think, to run. But I believe the spirit of Gen Zs can say the Gen Zs will themselves be the volunteer agents in every polling station. That will be the culmination of bringing true democratic liberation to Kenya. So that's my challenge to you, and I agree with you. As I said, nothing useful to add. Very quickly, Victor Sankara. Where is Victor Sankara? Yeah. You're very skeptical about democracy, and I can't blame you. Barack Obama, the 44th president of the United States, is regularly quoted on CNN by a lady called Christian Amonpour. Very brilliant lady. And she's asked, what is the future of democracy? Barack Obama says, democracy will win if we fight for it. Now, first of all, we are going to define what is democracy within the African setup. Clearly, African Union, and I was there, the transition from OAU, Organization of African Union, to Organization of African Union, that OAU, to now AU. In the Constitutive Act of the AU, African leaders have said no to military dictatorships because they are undemocratic. And when you get, that's why some of us are clear, get our men back to the barracks. Don't get them onto the streets. Because you show them power, they'll get it. And I think even William Ruto realized, hey, day one they came, second day they were not there. He returned the brutal police force to be able to deal with that. So democracy, therefore, is a very important matter, Victor. Our friend from Lesotho, Pan-Africanism, and then whether truly the world is ready for women leadership. Yeah, you mentioned this lady Truth. I think she was the shortest serving British Prime Minister or anywhere in the world. 45 days. I think, I can't blame her. Sometimes I think can be very hot. And you just leave it. Just leave it. And out there they even do very interesting things, even in the UK itself. But let's not give up. This conversation whether if Biden stops, if he doesn't run, maybe Kamala Harris, but she's an American of Indian origin, will they allow that? All these things. There's tribalism across the world. So I think it is that important that leaders in every country, unique political environment, should be able to sit and agree. In this country, for example, every Kenyan will know the time we had the freest democratic election was in 2002, when all of us said Kibaki Tosha. And the man who said Kibaki Tosha will be talking to you later this evening. And it was so clear that even if you steal the elections, you cannot. You steal the elections until you look funny. And that's why President Kibaki said that even stealing requires intelligence. Yeah. And it's still blatantly. So, and that's why Kenyans are actually unhappy about this dialogue. Because they know it is because we had yet another unfair election outcome in 2013, 2017, when I actually ran as Raila's deputy for those two elections. And I know we won in those two elections. Then we didn't win. And can you imagine you win and then you don't win? It's very painful. And that is democracy. Our friend from Togo, dealing with illegal immigration, yes, I agree that, yes, it's a beautiful country. Thank you for coming to see us, even when we are uncomfortable. And I'm quite sure you have a story to tell when you are back in Togo. You know, there was the Lome Convention, which got a lot of African countries going those days. African countries and Caribbean countries. So in terms of economic management of the African continent, country of Togo stands very, very tall. I don't know the young Wiper Democrat is clearly done some reading around. Sees Germany is doing well, average age at 45, 40, and 20. And the answer lies in what I said. If we cannot bring companies to invest in Kenya, we cannot create jobs. All right? We end up with an election slogan of a wheelbarrow. That is the best we can do. You're actually highlighting poverty, that you can only do any kind of job. Hey, cleaning toilets? Surely. And you've been to the university? There must be those category of Kenyans who I'm sure will happily want to do some of these jobs. But to lift ourselves out of poverty, we need to think positive. We need to act positive. Have I left out somebody? And Kancha, Pan-Africanism, our friend from Lesotho, on Pan-Africanism, yeah. It's very important. We need to revisit that's what is when the founding fathers of our continent, men like Kwame Nkrumah, and Abdel Nasser sitting in Egypt that time, working for liberation of Africa. And they brought up this concept of Pan-Africanism. Remember Kwame Nkrumah? He said, seek ye first. A political. We got it, but what have we done with it? So I would paraphrase and say, all the time be subject to God. So we do not pretend we can take up the role of God. But I think that Kojo, your challenge to me is, if I was to take over, I'll take into account. This political cronyism is the problem. Because you begin by rewarding the men and women who are holding you hostage. Look at Ruto. Some of them incompetent, some had criminal cases, waiting for them, murder charges. And you put them in your government. Others have stolen so much. You may have heard of the fertilizer scandal in this country. They are still holding him hostage. They say, you touch us, we let everything out of the bag. And you look as bad as we are. So that is a problem. But if you go for professionalism, not always looking at your own party. I told you in this country of 90 political parties. If I was to be president and I just go for Wiper, how would that look like? So the concept of, at the right time, what President Ramaphosa has done, government of national unity, I think is a way to go. It's a way to go. But not in Kenya, I'm sorry to say. Not now. We can think of government of national unity going forward, immediately after an election. But not, you wait for 2 years, people are dead, then you create, you come and say government of national unity. I don't think it looks right. So in my own case, I'm very clear I want to do opposition until we remove dictatorship in this country. Yeah. So I think that I've tried to cover all of you, and I thank you for your thoughts. There's another one. Another one here. To address nation at 2 p.m. today. What has this to do with me? Ruto is addressing the nation at 2 p.m. I wish him good luck. I wish him good luck. Poor man is really struggling. Really struggling. Thank you.
Can we give His Excellency a round of applause? Thank you so much, Your Excellency. On behalf of the young people, we're so grateful just for, just taking your time, to talk about your experience and just answering all of our questions. And my apologies, so we're not going to be taking any more questions just because we're running out of time. So this concludes the round of our Q&A. And yeah, and then we know the topic we're just truly just focusing on the role of young people in governance and youth in governance just, promotes positive outcomes among young people. And, we just have to just keep, fostering resilience of youth, just our unity and just, seeing how, we can be, active participants and citizens of, and just understanding how decisions are made and how to organize and just to be part of this movement. And even just coming from Cameroon, honestly, like, I just hope, I'm just looking forward to the day where, I just truly envy you guys Kenyans, honestly. So now, and next we're just gonna have the vote of thanks by Honorable Sasha. But before that, I just wanted to say that right after her vote of thanks, we're going to move up to the photo session, and right after that, we'll have lunch. So you have the mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisiana. Your Excellency, Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, kindly.
Sasha, give this some thought.
Yes.
Part of the problem in Africa is the big man syndrome. I came very close Vice President. But what has gone into the minds of Kenyan leaders is when they are called Your Excellency Governor, Your Excellency President. You saw me address Ruto as Mr. President. I think we need to get rid of these things. This excellency, if you are an excellent, you're comparing yourself to God.
True.
So maybe I'm Mr. Kalonzo if you want.
Mr. Kalonzo.
Thank you.
Well guided, Mr. Kalonzo, though a bit awkward. We are not used to that. Great, distinguished ladies and gentlemen from all over Africa, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Are you happy to hear from a pot of wisdom and an experienced ardent Pan-African in this country? Thank you so much, Mr. Kalonzo. Oh my God, I have to really adjust to that. Oh, okay, Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka. My name is member of the County Assembly in Nyandarua County. I am a lawyer by profession, and I was privileged to do my undergraduate while you were doing your master's. And at that point, we used to really admire the leadership. And we knew one day we shall step into those. I'm glad that we are making great strides as young people towards occupying those offices. I always say we are not leaders of tomorrow. We are leading today, and this is our time. And as I can just, as Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka has confirmed and affirmed, we should not shy away from leadership. It is our time. Let us take up these positions. In your Gen Z era, you came up with the constitutional change to bring multipartyism. Now we are in a new era whereby young people are calling for involvement, for justice, for accountability, and for the fight against corruption. Thank you so much for giving us a word of encouragement, and not just encouragement, but affirming what we are doing here as Pan-African youths. I believe going forward, even as young women, because as young women, first of all, we fight as youths, and then we will fight again as young women. Do we agree, young women in this hall? We fight as youths, and then again, we fight as young women. We will sit in those leadership positions. We are taking over, and youths will be undeterred. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate your presence. May God bless you. Thank you. Let me call the moderator.
Okay. Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Sasha Wamae and Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka as they walk out. You'll just remain seated so that they can be able to walk out. We allow our guests to go straight to the photo booth. We allow them to get to that photo booth before we ask our